Hey, everybody. Welcome to our October version, end of the month conversation of what landlords need to know, what's exciting, what's going on, what's new. And like our conversations always, it's a three-headed monster. So we have with us, as always, Rob Lisi from Stonegate Legal Services and Kayla Andrade from Front Lobby and Ontario Landlord Watch. Guys, say hi. Welcome again.
Hi, everyone. Good to be back. I'm looking forward to talking about what we're going to be talking about today.
I've waited all month for this.
Yeah, so lots to talk about today. What we're going to hit up to, I'm sure everybody has kind of heard what's going on with Bill 60 and what's coming, and at least the first draft has been released that we are going to discuss, break down, and share with everybody today. Obviously, there's going to be changes, and remember that this is just a friendly conversation amongst three friends who are here to help educate and support you landlords out there. So let's dive in right into Bill 60. Let's let Rob, why don't you break it down for us from the legal side of things? What does this mean,
It-
and what are we looking at here for change?
Well, it means a lot if it goes through. Instead of getting into the legal, I have some minor points because today I did 3 podcasts on this. So I've been talking about it all day. So the real breakdown is going to be, I'm going to leave the last one because it's going to be removed, is security of tenure. But I want to talk about the N12. So the N12 right now is a minimum 60 days notice, 1 month's rent compensation. Now they're going to be saying if the landlord or they're for personal use, it could be 120 days with no compensation. Okay. Um, that is going to be for the N12. But the thing is that what's not going to change in the N12 is going to be the second page, fourth paragraph, which says that they still have the right to wait for a hearing. So even though you're changing the notice period, what is going to be the remedy for the landlord? You still have to go to the board if they challenge it. That's going to be the first thing. Next is going to be the N4. I think Kayla's going to like this. Is that the notice period right now is 14 days. They're going to be changing it to 7 days. Is it a big difference? No, it's not going to be a big difference because, again, if the tenant doesn't pay, you still have to wait to get to the board. Okay. Next is going to be Section 82 issues. And in regards to Section 82, that's when the tenants raise their own issues at a non payment of rent hearing. So to avoid it being a delay, they're now going to ask the tenant to pay into the board 50% of the arrears that are claimed. And this is supposed to reduce delay tactics. And not last but not least, but in regards to Section 83, which is going to be for review of applications, it is now going to be shortened to 15 days, which is good because now these matters can be heard quicker. And last but not least, is security of tenure. They were going to do that when a tenancy comes to an end, that the landlord can end the tenancy. Now, I'm just going to give my 2 cents. I know it doesn't mean very much. I agree with security of tenure, believe it or not. I don't think a landlord should arbitrarily end a tenancy. I think they need to have a legal reason. Now, yes, there are some problems with the law where if someone's not pay, I know, Kayla, if they're not paying market value and all that stuff, but I do believe because I try to be fair. I try to look at the landlord side, but I also try to look at the tenant side. So now Ford has been, what do you want to say, Kayla? He's been
Bullied.
bullied, okay, bullied
He's
to
been
make a change
bullied.
on that. Other than that, like, even though these changes, remember, it's only the first reading, they still have to go through it. They're going to be making some more changes. So I know it's a big topic right now, but I don't want anyone to think that this is law yet. It's not law yet. Okay.
No.
And now I'm going to pass this to Kayla because I know she has lots to say.
So obviously, we respect your opinion. Obviously, I think we're looking at the government, trying to look at other provinces, looking at what Alberta does. And at that fixed term, it's either you sign on for another year or you go to month to month. And if you don't sign on to another year in Alberta, it automatically goes month to month, but you either have to end the tenancy or renew for another year. If it's happening all over Ontario and Canada, why can't it happen here in Ontario? Now, again, I find right now politicians, our tenants, good and bad, and our tenant unions have literally took to social media and start yelling like the sky is falling. The sky is falling. Rent control's gone away. They're going to kick us out for no reason. If you look at what was in this bill, it was a keyword here, consult. First and foremost, consult. We're just talking about it. It's not going to happen. Number two, I would like to look at the possibilities of if it was to go through and we did have proper consultation, maybe this was about grandfathering. Maybe it's about grandfathering every single tenancy that's currently here right now from yearly to month. And when it looked at adjusting to market conditions, because that's when everyone's screaming, oh, it's going to be rent control. Rent control's gone. Well, what is the market condition and what is the market rate? We have CMHC, we have our regions. They're always giving us what is the market rental unit, even in affordable housing. They have these are our affordable housing units. This is units that are considered market rate. Maybe the government was just going to allow those landlords to increase to market rate, in which if they did bring over the grandfather clause, anyone coming into a new tenancy would technically be at market rate. But again, it's just anyone who's hating the conservative government coming out and trying to make them look bad for something that is so good, something that is amazing. Not even just like if you want to take out like the fact that, you could end a tenancy, we're okay with that. The fact remains is that we need to have something put in place to allow these homeowners to keep up with the growing expenses that government has put on the landlord. That's my 2 cents on the part that they've taken away. I'm gonna control my other emotions right now and take a little breather because that part has been itching at me for so long. And it honestly looks like we have a weak government when we have people making videos, gaslighting everybody into making it look like rent control was ending and everyone's going to be homeless in a year's time. I think tenants would have been able to negotiate. The market has changed. I have a 3-bedroom unit sitting on the market empty. I got a 2-bedroom unit sitting on the market empty. I got another 2-bedroom coming up from a friend of ours who just had their tenants move in April. The market has shifted. This is now negotiation time where a tenant can come into a tenancy and say, I want a 2-year lease. I want a 3-year lease. Maybe you can say you can't raise your rent in that 2-year time frame, that 3-year time frame. And then I would at the end of that fixed term lease. There was a lot of possibilities, and it sucked that our government was able to just hear the roars of our social media from our tenants who have been supported by municipal government in funding, as well as unions supporting them, when you never even gave time for the housing providers who are providing the necessity of housing to the population, because they can't depend on the government's wait list for 10 to 22 years. I'm wearing black today as a mourning and protest.
And I'm wearing Blue Jays because we are in the World Series right now. So let's be thankful that our Blue Jays are playing for a championship to be the best.
This is great though, Kevin. Like, you got to think this is 15 years of bill after bill after bill protecting tenants. We finally get one small one that's not even going to make a world of difference to impacting our good tenants, but is for our bad ones, right? So I just want to put that out there to everyone watching that this is one bill, 15 years.
Tell me how you really feel, Kayla. Tell me how you really feel.
I'll tell you. I've been itching. I made a video before this, and I'm like, do I post it? I'm like, I don't know. But
Well,
go,
no,
Kevin. Shut me up.
I'm kind of siding with Rob with the secure tenures. Like, I have no problem with ending that lease and letting them stay there and everything like that. I think our issues are, like you said, this is a small problem that's being blown up. It doesn't really make much of a difference, because you still should have to get them out from something else anyways. If they are a good tenant living there, paying rent on time, doing whatever, people need a roof over their head, right? We all need that roof over their head. It's when situations need to be addressed, like maintenance issues and stuff like that, where older buildings are getting worn down and they can't have their rent increased, right? You're talking about a different market right now. We've had tenants that, have said, hey, if you increase our rent, we're going to leave. Or if you don't lower our rent, I can go downstairs in this condo, and instead of my 1 bedroom plus den, I can get a 2 bedroom right now for the same thing. And we've had to discuss with landlords about what we wanted to do in situations like that as well, because maybe it doesn't make sense for that individual to fight with that tenant leaving. Give them their little bit of reduction instead of vacancy and everything that comes along with it.
Can I just say something? Is that, and I think Kayla will agree with this. I think that the tenants that are good tenants have nothing to worry about. Okay. So really, it's the tenants that have a problem with not paying their rent or not following the law that are going to have a problem with this. If you're a good tenant, and I try to be fair again, because not all tenants are bad, not all landlords are good, guys. I deal with them every single day. So I like to see some fairness. I'm an advocate for the RTA, and I know Kayla's not going to like when I say this. I believe the law is fair. What I don't believe is that the landlord and tenant board is fair, because here she goes.
You know what? Like, I can say, like, majority of the RTA is pretty reasonable, minus the fact that we're making some changes now with Bill 60. But, like, I'm coming to new things that never have been brought to my attention before, and that was Section 56, where we're seeing landlords who or owners have severed their property, and because of there was a tenant in the property when the property was severed, they are now protected, and the new owner or the owner after that or the owner after that can't give a notice to that tenant to take it over for personal use. We have a family who can't move into the property that they bought because of Section 56. I think it's just more of an understanding that, yes, the RTA is the way it is, but making sure that we have like some type of committee, a task force overseeing like when this was written and does it really apply today for today's market and for the today's economy. I think that's the way that, but when they're taking our time frame, let's get this straight, because it makes it look like it's good for landlords. From 14 days from filing your application, you now have 7 days where you can file at the landlord and tenant board. Hey man, that's awesome. I think it's great that we're able to give the landlord and tenant board money, $186, 7 days early, and then tenants have to pay for it? We're like, "Here you go, landlord tenant board," because I know sometimes tenants will pay. They will pay on the 14th day. But now we're just, here's a late fee. But the landlords are not getting that late fee. The board is, right? But hey, I'm still thumbs up. Conservative government, thumbs up on that change. Absolutely love it. I was literally reading, guys. I was ready for a meeting and reading this as it came out, and I'm looking at it and looking at the time, looking at it, looking at it. I felt like that witch from like Hocus Pocus, when she was sucking the life out of that kid and looking at the sunlight. Oh my God. Oh, this was great. I've never seen something like this. And it's, you know why? You know why? Because they know it's changing. They know our landlords are leaving the province. They know our contractors are paying the price for not able to get jobs and getting the contracts. Development is down, development's being canceled. We have our contractors sitting at home, no jobs. All of this comes into the landlord world, and now they want to do whatever they can possible to bring that fairness back in. And I know right now, Rob, like for 60 days to 118 days, we got to compensate. Is it still going to be that 1 month's compensation, or are they increasing it? We don't know about that, right? These are all fine details that we don't know. Then we have waiting 4 months. Like, God, like if I actually need my unit, I'm going to be homeless for 4 months. Thanks a lot, guys. Whatever happened to property rights?
I can't argue with you there. There is one thing that I do believe they need to change, and I know, Kevin, you're going to agree with this for sure, is in regards to the certificate of service, they have fax machine as an acceptable form of service. Yeah. But email is not considered an acceptable form of service. Now, you guys both know in the Ontario Standard Lease, there is a section to allow email for an acceptable form of service. However, there's rules to it. The tenant must, first of all, must be in your lease. Second of all, the tenant must acknowledge it, not a red receipt, and they can opt out at any time. Now, what doesn't make sense is that if you provide the tenant's email when the board notifies them for a hearing, they are considered served. And they will also send it as a mail. So they need to change that. That email should be an acceptable form of service, period. That's just me, because like you said, time has changed. Let's use the technology that we have.
Amen. Like, and that's a perfect solution. It's a perfect solution. But how come our government is not speaking with people like you? How come they're not fully
I'm not important enough, Kayla.
you?
You know, I
So
have an idea, Kayla. I have a really good. You
I'm
should run for office.
my husband will divorce me.
This is my endorsement. Kayla for MPP, possibly Prime Minister.
Uh, back at you,
Housing
Rob.
sector.
But you know what? Like, you're absolutely right. Like, email, everyone's on text message. You can send that email, then you can send it, follow up with a text message to the tenant, just letting you know, I sent this email to you regarding this, this, and this. Please acknowledge it. If they don't acknowledge it, and you know that's the way of them communicating, why aren't we making that little itty bitty
Yeah.
tiny change?
Yeah, I agree with that.
This can go a long, long way. And you know what? We're going to take this, and I'm taking this entire bill, I'm picking it apart, making sure we give our input to it, because the government is obviously under attack. They're under attack from everybody and anybody just because they're cracking down on tenants who are professional tenants, and they're the ones that are going to make some noise. Like, even for the review process, when we have tenants abusing the fact that the system in itself, they would look at 30 days. They have 30 days to sit on their hands, wait away, and then the last minute on the last day, they're filing for a review. No evidence, no reason for it, but they file it and they get to have another hearing, and the sheriff is put on hold because these people want to last a little bit longer living rent-free.
Yeah, because they have the right to be heard,
The
unfortunately.
government's been going after bad
And-
landlords and trying to correct that side of the equation for years, right? Because that's who they can, I guess, get money from guaranteed, or that's what they do, and that's what they crack down to make sure things are fair for the tenants. But like Rob said, there's good landlords, there's bad landlords, there's good tenants, there's bad tenants. I wish we could separate both sides and put the good with the good and the bad with the bad and let them figure themselves out. But
When I say bad landlords, I'm not saying that not all of them are malicious. I believe they just don't know what they're doing. They look at certain celebrities on TV, I'm not going to say who, and they think that buying real estate is a hands off investment, make millions of dollars overnight. And if you all three of us know that real estate is not an overnight making money machine. I know there's ways around it. There's the Burr method and all these other things, but I'm an old school guy where when you buy to hold. And I think I'm a responsible landlord. And that's what we need to do, is teach people how to be better landlords. Now, does that mean making them licensed to be a landlord? No, I don't think that. But there's a lot of landlords that call me that they just have no idea what they're doing. They don't know their rights. They don't know the tenant's rights, and they just try to push around the tenant. And that I don't agree with.
I think it's all about education information, which is why the three of us have come together and what we're working on doing. And it's going to lead us into what's coming in the future with what we're doing with the Investor Summit and our monthly meetups, so that we can continue to educate and inform. Because like you said, Rob, all the real estate coaches, whatever groups out there, they all teach you how to buy something, but none of them teach you about what to expect and when it gets real, when you actually become a landlord and the game begins. I just spoke to a lady 2 weeks ago, to the point she was telling me what was going on and how she had talked to her tenants over a year ago to let her know that she just wasn't able to carry it anymore. This is a lady in her 70s. She wanted to move back in because it was a semi, and her nephew lived in the one side, and that way he was going to be around if she took over the other side. Anyways, she tried to give him so much notice and was trying to be such a nice lady about it, not with the proper guidance or anything. And when we started to have our conversation, she was like, well, my sister kept telling me I should do this or this. And I was like, okay, cool. Your sister's a landlord? She goes, no. And I was like, oh. not probably the best person to get guidance from. I know that's your sister, and she's definitely giving you advice out of love and what she thinks is the best for you, but it's definitely not the best advice for you. So no, I love what we're doing all the time, trying to make sure that the right information is getting out there. We are as individual as our fingerprints, and things are different for everybody's situation and specific stuff. So it's guidance and education. So
So, like, I think when we look at, like, having our these calls, giving everybody the education, but it's also now this is why Front Lobby adapted Landlord Assist into their platform, and it's programmed from a legal professional to help guide you through the proper information. But our landlords are getting mixed signals, and I think they're getting mixed signals from different groups and different organizations and unions, and obviously now we have these changes that are coming in, and it's very scary, and also very, like, people are calling it like fake news. And I'm like, no, it's not fake news. You're going to go and you're going to call your MP, and you're going to call the minister Rob Flack, and you're going to make sure you even call the finance minister, and we're going to make sure that they have our full support on this. Because even as a landlord and tenant, and I want people to understand this, when we have landlords and we have tenants, we also have our taxpayers. And the taxpayers are funding the landlord and tenant board. And if we're watching the landlord and tenant board not being able to give justice to where justice is due, or justice delayed is justice denied, we're paying for that at the landlord and tenant board. We're paying for these adjudicators. We're paying for these moderators, and we're paying for the dispute resolution officers. We're paying quite a bit to manage the landlord and tenant board, and we expect it to run efficiently for both parties, for both. And this is what Bill 60 is doing. From the persistency of being late, we had adjudicators like, I like 5 times a month or out of the year to be considered persistently late. Then we have someone that wants 7. But even if we go to the landlord and tenant board, and Rob, you might want to jump. When you go to the landlord and tenant board on an N8 application, because the tenant is constantly late on their rent, and I'm running a business and I need to make sure my bills are paid, I go to the landlord and tenant board and you don't get an eviction. They're usually put on a Section 78. And even on a Section 78, where you have to make sure your rent is on time and it's in full, and if it's a penny less or a day late, like, you're going to get evicted. That
No,
doesn't even still happen.
no. Well,
So
there's a reason for that. Go on.
no. That's where I could think, like, this is
Okay.
trying to kind of see ourselves like, we have this, and you're going to put some rules in place to what is considered persistency late. But we also now need to tell our government, like, what happens if you're now brought to the landlord and tenant board and you are persistently late, because sometimes they're listening to the tenants and they're listening to the tenant's situation, and they're listening to say, what is going on? Is it a Section 83? Are you in a hardship situation? And they're forcing the small landlord who can't afford it to be the social agency for the government. So that's my take on this new change. It's like, I like the fact they are still trying to propose some kind of create an authority figure for these adjudicators, so that they're not doing it quite on a whim or a certain time frame, but the government would consult on circumstances. Again, it's that word consult. And even though the tenants were able to backtrack on this whole lease term expiry, they're gunning for this bill, guys. Like, we have to be, I don't know where you are, a property manager, a landlord, realtor, if you want to keep private landlords in this industry so that we can provide accommodations to these tenants who can't wait 10 to 22 years for government housing, you need to show your respect and your thoughts to our government in order to keep them motivated to keep what's in here now.
Yeah. Can I elaborate on the N8 just so that you know?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
from my experience. So the N8 is not designed for an immediate eviction.
No, never.
You have to flip it around. The purpose of an N8 is that you're trying to get the tenant back on track. So at least in our office and what we see at the board, our magic number is 6 months or more. You need
Yeah.
to show majority of the year. You need to show a rent roll so that you can prove to the board that they've been late at least 6 times within the last 12 months.
Mhm.
Now, when you get to the board, unfortunately, the board will consider everything. So they will consider any text messages that the landlord and tenant has had. Because some landlords, believe it or not, will say, "Oh, you get paid on this date? Okay, you can pay me on that date." So, in regards to the N8, if you get an order, and I'm glad that you said this, Kayla, is that the order will say 1 day late, $1 short. Under Section 78, the landlord will have the remedy to do an eviction. However, when you do that eviction, we've seen that if they're 1 day late and you try to take them to the board will say, well, they were late that 1 day. What about the months after? Did they pay? Yes. They will not allow for an eviction. If it's ODSP and they didn't get their check on time, they will not allow for an eviction.
And they
If
have
it's
rent relief.
if there's a human rights issue or Section 83 issue, they may not grant an eviction. So remember, the Section 78 is the remedy for the landlord, but because this is Canada, this tenant still has the right to be heard at a merits hearing. Welcome to Ontario.
And I don't think anything's gonna change within that bill, Bill 60 either, right? It's just
I don't think so.
laying out the groundwork to letting people know what that magical number is, the Section 78. And that's the part where we all have to sit back and say, do we need a little bit more push to what this Section 78 is? I just want it to stay fulfilled because you're already waiting a long time to get to the landlord tenant board. We put you on a payment plan, you failed that payment plan. Now we're waiting again to go back to the landlord and tenant board because you filed for a stay within that. This is where we have to kind of put something. But I guess this kind of leads into the new change with N4 applications and having different wording, right? This is awesome. I love this. Like this part, it was exciting for me because I was like giving recommendations to the government. I'm like, you look at all your applications as like, oh, you don't have, if you don't pay, you don't have to leave. Or here's an N12, you don't have to leave. They're changing the wording to make it more of a serious matter if your landlord is giving you an N4 application, which is great. Right. Because I think a lot of people think that we're the credit card, we are, payday loan, we're going to be able to cover you. No, there's a lot of landlords out there who are losing their jobs as well. And they are obviously suffering. So a government is starting to have that messaging when they do see that. And it's great to see Doug Downey and Rob Flack. And obviously, I'm going to take down my resignation letter or petition for for Doug Downey. I'll take that down. But this is just showing that they're starting to get it. And I think everyone that is in our group and this group and who's listening now is connect to all the social media platforms for Rob Flack, Doug Downey, Doug Ford. Obviously, we have Michael Tobolo, who is the associate to the Attorney General, and we have Grayson Smith, who is the associate to the Minister of Housing as well. And again, even Nina Tangria, she's a minister to small businesses. These landlords are small business owners. Like, follow these people, reach out to these people. I will give the information over to Kevin so you guys have their email address so that we'll put this into this video as well. So you have a clear direction of, and it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be, crazy, but reach out to your elected officials and let them know that you support this and that because of this bill, you're going to start renting your units again. I think it's the renting I think it's a symptom, right? You look at this lease expiry, I think people were loving it because they seen the option to increase the rent to make their business stable again. Rent increases is 4.86% in Cambridge for 2026. We're only able to raise our rent 2.1%. So like Rob, maybe our motion as landlords, we can't really do much to protest, but with those numbers in itself, it says we can apply for an AGI. And a lot of us don't want to, which we don't. It's usually the big landlords that do it, but maybe it's just to show we need help, we need support, and we're hoping our government understands that the rent control that they have on this province is a symptom of what all these other problems are. Because I could tell you right now, as landlords, we used to see people stay in a rental unit for 2 to 3 years. They're living in our units a lot longer, between 3 to 5 years, even longer. So how are we supposed to keep up with the growing increases from our taxes and utilities and maintenance and non-payment of rent when the government has obviously put us in there? So when the tenants do vacate or the tenants do get evicted, we have to we have to jump that rent, and we have to make sure that it covers not only the losses but future increases.
The one thing with, and I've said this before a few different times, uh, and it's not having anything to do with Bill 60, but I think the easiest thing for the government to change that would make a big difference on the people that need assistance for housing is to make sure that their housing assistance money goes directly to the landlord. The person that is receiving
Yeah.
housing assistance should not have any control over their housing assistance money. I you're shaking your head, Rob, but if I'm giving you $1,000 that's going towards putting a roof over your head, why should you go spend that on groceries?
Okay, I'm gonna play the. Um, so I agree with you. So the reason why I've talked to a social worker, the reason why that they're self-directed, which means that the landlord can be paid directly from the source, but let's say it's ODSP, or the tenant can say, I want to pay the landlord. The reason why this is coming from a social worker is to make them feel responsible. Because if they start being responsible, there's a possible chance that they could be part of the system again and be employed. That's what came from a social worker. Now, whether that's going to be accurate or not, the thing is that to take that away from them, I'm going to also say this, that when you get paid by OW or ODSP directly, the money part is good because you're getting paid, but doesn't mean that the tenant is still good. And it makes it difficult to ever evict that tenant. I don't know if anyone here has ever had an ODSP or a W, but if they stop paying and it's self-directed and they pay you and they stop paying, at least you can get them out. Where if they're being paid by the government, remember, you can only increase it by the allowable rate. And if they're a problem tenant, to get them out is going to be very difficult.
I see a lot of wasted money, right? We're seeing people who are on OW and ODSP. The money is either, to themselves or to the landlord. They either have to still pay a certain portion of themselves, even if it's being directed. And then there's an arrears. And then we're seeing social managers, local service managers who are helping tenants with rent relief. And that's coming up to like $10,000. I'm seeing it, $10,000. They're willing to pay that to
Are you
keep
talking about the rent bank? Like, is that what you mean, Kayla?
yeah, like rent banks, like, because it's gonna be either through OW, it's gonna be through another branch of an organization off of the municipality, but they're still willing to pay that $10,000 of taxpayers' money to house those people, to get them in good standings. But at the same time, they don't have another process in place to keep them in good standing. So another 5 months down the road, those people are now back into the same situation where they're now going to be in the arrears, right? So that's the part where it's always just about letting people understand that there's consequences. There's consequences to your actions. Right now, people know that there's multiple different organizations that help these people, help them bail them out. They're looking for a handout, not a hand up. So that's why I became the ambassador to front lobby, so that we can encourage our landlords to report the tenants' monthly rent payments to the credit bureaus. We need to tell our tenants, no matter which way you have your bills, your groceries, everything, your number one thing you need, and as a mom of four, is the roof over your head. Everything else, there's programs to help people with hydro, there's programs to help people with gas, there's food banks. Your housing is the most important thing ever. But unfortunately, we have tenant unions and we have different elected officials making it look like the private landlords should be the person subsidizing these tenants, and they should be the people providing affordable housing. We are market rent housing. This is market rent housing. We have nonprofit housing providers who do affordable and they do market. We're just market. So we have to make sure that we have a clear understanding what kind of landlords we have. But unfortunately, our government is painting everybody with the same brush, and we need to be able to change that. And this is what this bill does. It stops these tenants from being able to abuse a landlord over and over again, because we have one bad situation for a landlord who put everything on the line, a risk, And now all of a sudden we just lost another rental unit from our stock. And that's what we're seeing. Like it could change hands. If you have like a triplex, yes, it may change hands, but the landlord may want to move into one of those units. Their child may want to move into one of those units, or the developer who just bought that is going to get a permit from the municipality. They're going to take it down to the ground. They're going to build brand new, and they're going to have no rent control on those units. So again, you put the crappiest policies in place for so long, it's the straw that broke the camel's back. And if you got one chance, government, to do this right, to bring back fairness and balance and make sure that you're holding the bad landlords accountable and you're holding the bad tenants accountable, because the good tenants and the good landlords are suffering, and you're not going to be able to put this onus and this type of responsibility onto the back of the taxpayers any longer. We're already tapped out. People are freaking out over
More than
4.86%.
1/3 of our country pays rent, right? More than 1/3 of Canadians are tenants. That number is going to continue to
Yep.
grow over these next few years with what's going on. I'm confident in saying that. And they're not all bad people, right? And that's the problem. When we help people screen tenants, right, at the end of the day, it is the landlord's decision in everything that we do. But I think because of the fearfulness that landlords can't have anything corrected quickly enough if something does change in the tenants' lives and they stop paying rent or whatever. Because even a good tenant that has a good job, something can change in their life and things can happen and go sideways. And now all of a sudden they're not paying rent anymore. It has to have quicker, right? The repercussions, the going
Yep.
to the board to be able to have them evicted for non-payment of rent has to be faster, has to have a quicker conclusion to that problem, whatever it may be. It cannot take months and months and months. The whole set 14 days to 7 days. I'd leave it at 14 days if you told me we could deal with this much quicker. You know what I mean? I'll give you 14 days to pay me back. If something's happened this month, that's okay. Instead of the 7, because I think you're right, Kayla. You're just paying $186 a little bit faster so that they can then just pay you that rent anyways before you get to the board. But I think there has to be a faster solution to stuff like that to give landlords the confidence back to when they're renting to people. You know, public residents, as people are coming new to our country, the hoops that they have to jump through to become a PR. They have come with money. They have everything that is in place, and landlords are steering away from what I see from situations like that as well because they have no credit, no backup. Kayla's mentioned front lobbying several times. They're a great tool for all landlords. We use it for all of our programs as well. We run screening checks through it, and we force, I shouldn't say force because we can't really force them, but we ask all potential tenants to sign the form that comes from front lobby that allows us to rent report them positively. So the way the program works is that you can, through front lobby, negatively rent report to anybody by not paying rent on time. But to positively improve their credit, that tenant needs to give you written permission through this form to do so. So the way that the numbers actually work is if you're looking at 10 tenants, 7 out of the 10 love this program because they get to improve their credit. The 3 out of 10 that don't, guess what? They're not paying their rent on time. So now instead of choosing 1 out of 10, we're choosing from 1 out of 7. So that is just one of the great tools that Front Lobby has implemented. The AI concept as well, where you can now get a little bit of general advice, I think is great. But once you need specific advice, you should be calling Stonegate and their team over there. But no, that,
Mhm.
I just wanted to say that about the signing of the form for the credit score. I think is been a game changer for us over the last couple of years as we're looking for something.
And you know what? Some landlords are taking credit checks from the tenants. Don't, please
Oh,
don't. Go over to the front lobby, pull your own credit check. Just make sure the clause is in your application where you're getting the permission from the tenant to
oh,
pull the credit check.
I'll
That
take
is
theirs if they give it
important.
to me just to make sure it matches what I pull. I do like to see
Yeah.
what they
Yeah,
give
oh,
me.
yeah. I've had someone, they were like, I'm meeting them. I'm like, okay, how long have you been in Canada? He said 3 years. He told me his wife was 4 months. And then when the application came through, he was telling me like 2 years she's been working at the same company that he works at, and they're consultants for a car lube company. I'm like, yeah, nah. Like, pass. Like, we're not able to take the risk. We're not able to take the risk because the landlord and tenant board is broken. It's broken for the landlords, it's broken for the tenants. And you know what? Soon enough, the taxpayers will be broke trying to manage an unsustainable system. Point blank. That's what's happening. You can see all these different hearings, guys, and you're excited. We're getting hearings at 3 months, 4 months. But when you get in front of the board and they run out of time because they want to close up shop at 12 o'clock, unacceptable. Okay. You got customers in your store, you ain't leaving until they buy something, then leave. Okay. That's just how a business should be ran. And I think that's how the government should be running our landlord and tenant board because you're taking our $186. I want service and I want it now. But I want to make sure we cover every part of this little bill before we're done for the night. We need to show our support, guys, on social media. Every time you see a tenant calling out upon this, like, oh, removing rent control, oh, call them out because this bill is only going to impact the professional tenants who are abusing this system. This is not going to be for the bad landlords who are like trying to take care of them. Like, no, this is literally for the people who have taken advantage of it. You're a good tenant. This has nothing to do with you. You're still listening to the rules and regulations. You're still going to be protected. You're still going to have your day in court. You're just not going to be able to use the loopholes in here to drag on something that shouldn't be dragged on because you're costing taxpayers. You're costing taxpayers money for them to manage the landlord and tenant board and having to rebook these type of hearings because of what their tricks are. Because right now, even when you have a set aside motion, a lot of people say that, oh, the tenants are not going to have their they're going to have their day in court. The fact remains is that we waited a long, long time. And if you want to keep our landlords in the business of providing housing, you need to keep this bill in play. And that's just how it is. If not, hey, they're getting out of the game. They're going to get it to the developers. They're going to give it to someone who's going to move into it. And I can tell you there's a lot of families who want to buy a property and move in together. So we're going to see less and less rental units that are coming on the market for sure. But I like the postpone of an eviction order, the setting aside the eviction order, increase enforcement. They're going to hire 8 more sheriffs in certain areas temporarily. I think they might.
Yes.
I don't know if they need them full time, but it's key into making sure that, even though you go through the landlord and tenant board and you go through those hearings and you wait 30 to 60 days. And I like to see something where they're going to speed up, especially with AI. Like, let's get these orders back into the hands of the landlords and the tenants quicker. But yeah, hiring some more adjudicators is going to be key. And the Tribunals Ontario to explore option, guys. If you're a tenant listening to this, it's just an explore. And that would be to access final landlord and tenant board decisions and orders. I think that's going to be very key, just like it is important to report all rent payment history to the credit bureaus through front lobby. But now we're going to get into other things. Now we're going to getting into more of the personal use applications, rent evictions, this all landlords are going to be having their name exposed either. This is why it's very important to try to mediate before we have to go to the landlord and tenant board. But if you do have to go to the landlord and tenant board, don't go empty handed. We got Rob. We got Rob and Beta, because I'm telling you, these people have been breathing and eating. I've been doing this for 15 years and I've always been following Beta and her husband of what they've been doing for the landlords in Ontario, and they're on top of it. They know what to do. There's different strategies that you can play, and honestly, unfortunately, this is a game, and you got to make sure you put the right cards in front of you, because you make a bad hand, it's not going to be good for you. And we know we're going to be getting you out of the rental industry anyways, but don't let the door hit you on the way out. We
Well, let's
know.
see what the final to see what the final law is. That'd be interesting to see.
No, 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 no. We're not gonna sit back and see, Rob. We're gonna get involved. We're gonna get
Of
involved.
course. Of
You're gonna give
course.
your 2 cents as a landlord. You're gonna give your 2 cents as a paralegal, realtor, property management, but make sure that you are listening to all the sides here. We have so many of these tenants are coming out and just making landlords to look like the greedy little landlords, and they still don't understand the fact that our government has increased the cost to the homeowner, which has to pass the cost to the tenant. Just like we put the increase on the business they're going to increase their cost on their product to the consumer. This is how things work. So don't look like the landlords. It's like they keep saying, oh, it's an investment. If you lose on no, it's a business and it needs to be respected as a business, just like the government protects and bails out other businesses in
Yeah,
Ontario.
they definitely have to be a little bit more supportive for certain things, that's for sure. I think again, this brings it back to the community, right? All of us landlords, all of us supporters, advocates, people that are here to help the industry of the housing industry. It's the industry professionals as well, realtors, right? I talk to them all the time. A lot of them don't understand from the professional side what really is going on with the RTA and the LTB and everything that they have to understand with regards to how they're advising their clients. So we get back to that education, information. It's not just about landlords, it's about industry professionals as well. So we want to continue making sure that everybody's getting the proper advice, getting back to in-person stuff. There's going to be a
Yes.
reception style in the evening on November 27th, Investor Summit, where the three of us, with other professionals as well, Sean Quigg from Cardinal Law, who specializes in real estate, joint ventures, and just real estate in general, planning and everything. He's going to be speaking as well, but it's about making sure that everybody understands what's coming, and making sure we're getting proper advice. Uh, I went to an investor meetup just last week to go see Kayla speak. I was in the area and I popped in. The timing was great, and I'm going to give a shout out to Mohammed. I met him at the event, and he came up to me and he said, "Hey, I was actually just listening to the podcast." So I think that's awesome that people are actually getting information from what we're doing, and continuing to educate and inform them, so people are getting that comfort level back in to knowing what's going on. So thank you to both of you for always supporting and helping out with that, because that was really good. And I now know that there's a few people out there listening to us, not just our moms. There'll be more information coming up on the November 27th date. And actually, it's the last Thursday of the month. So this little conversation that we've been doing here on the last Thursday of the month is going to be recorded that day as well. So the panel that we're going to be having. So that's going to be our November conversation. So come join us November 27th, and also interact with us here. Like, we can hear and answer any questions. If there's something that people want to know, let us know, and we'll make sure that you guys are getting the answers that you need, or reach out to us individually. Rob and Stonegate's stuff, I'm sure, has popped across the screen, or if not, it will come now. And Kayla's will as well, and ours is there. So reach out, let us know. I think that was a really good conversation for today. I think we covered a lot of things, shared what we wanted to get off our chests. Is there anything we want to finish with, or just go Jays go?
You know what? I think this has been I think this has been emotional, I think, for me for to watching this bill. I've been doing this for 15 years, and to finally see something that I always hoped would come is great, and I'm gonna fight tooth and nail to make sure that we see it through the first read, the second read, the third read, the royal assent, and if we can get a royal assent on this, guys, I'm gonna host a party like no one's ever seen before. So let's show it some love. Let's contact your MPP, no matter if they're red, blue, yellow, or green. I don't care what it is. I hate party politics, but make sure you reach out to them. These are the people who have been put in a position to support you and to help you as a citizen. So they pay you're paying their wages. So make sure that they're working for you at the same time. So give them a connection if you need help. Talking to them, give me a call. I'd be happy to do it.
Uh, as always, again, reach out to us if you have any questions. The first reading of Bill 60 that we have here that we were referring to, you can get a copy of that as well, and we'll share that somehow. Again, I'm guessing there'll be a link below, or a bio, or email us to get it. Either way, it will be downloadable somehow on our website or here, cressy.ca, for any of the information that way. And Rob from Stonegate Legal Services, Kayla from Front Lobby and Ontario Landlord Watch, thank you so much for Bill 60.
Thank you for having me.
Please remember, while we are professionals, this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The advice shared may not apply to your unique situation. Always seek personalized advice from a qualified professional before making any investment decisions.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this week. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're finding it informative and useful, make sure to like, subscribe, share with a friend so that we can keep getting the information out there to Ontario landlords. And keep on joining us. We'll see you next time.